All right, coffee and football, snap judgments. Welcome to episode 2. My apologies. I'm starting this an hour late. My morning just took an unexpected turn and it threw me off a little bit. Um, Yesterday, we went over why this show exists. This was kind of an intro episode yesterday. Today, we're going to start actually doing the thing, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about some holes in this roster, building the roster up moving forward, and what this team needs to continue competing and to build a dynasty. Because I think that's what Mike Vrabel is looking to do. He's looking to build a dynasty, not just a 1 year, we're going to take a shot at the Super Bowl this year. This is not short term solutions. This is not big name hunting. This is roster construction. All right. So listen, it's time for a quick hello. We're going to do a little coffee check, a little Green Mountain Brewing this morning. Um, I like the Nantucket blend personally. And just a quick reminder what this is about. Okay. Again, this is coffee and football, snap judgments, morning football talk for people who actually watch football. We're going to talk about preparation. We talk about role players, coaching, the stuff that decides games. It's not hot takes, not fake outrage, any of that. All right. And here you are not an audience. I encourage you to interact. You're in the room, you're part of the conversation. Okay. Just a quick little news here. I have a appearance tonight on the Draft Professors podcast that will be going over New England Patriots roster construction as in the current roster and kind of how we got to where we are. Um, so as we get into this mock draft episode, I'd like you guys to start thinking about which side of the ball are you looking at? Are you looking at offense or are you looking at defense? Quick little breaking news, Patriots adjacent type stuff or Patriots directly related. Um, Pro Football Writers Association put out their NFL, AFC, NFC, AFC, NFL, and rookie teams. Drake was the QB of the AFC. Stafford edged him out for the NFL team. And this is kind of becoming a bit of a trend this year, right? The all pro teams were put out before. Stafford edged out Drake there for the quarterback. He's edging him out in Pro Football Writers Association, all NFL team as well. I'm kind of wondering if this is not telling us what's going to happen with the MVP award. Just a quick rundown, the all NFL team, it was Stafford at quarterback, James Cook and Christian McCaffrey at running back, Puka Nakua and Jackson Smith and Jigba at wide receiver, Trey McBride at tight end, Creed Humphrey at center, Quinn Miners of the Denver Broncos at guard, along with Joe Tooney from the Bears, Garrett Bowles of the Denver Broncos at tackle, along with Penei Sewell. So that's again direct, kind of directly impacting the Patriots. Not impacting so much, but it just gives you an idea of the difference that I was talking about yesterday between the offensive line in Denver and the offensive lines of Houston and LA. Okay, we didn't hear a single Houston or LA name there. We did hear two Denver Broncos. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, you had Will Anderson Jr., the Texans, we just saw him, Myles Garrett, of course, Jeffrey Simmons and Leonard Williams at those four guys make up the D line, D end, and D tackle. Nick Bonito of the Denver Broncos, we talked about him a little bit yesterday. He's an outside linebacker with Brian Burns. Jack Campbell at middle linebacker. The cornerbacks were Quinyon Mitchell and Derek Stingley Jr. Safeties Kevin Byard III and Kyle Hamilton. On special teams, we had place kicker Brandon Aubrey of the Cowboys, punter Jordan Stout, kick returner Ray Davis, and punt returner Chimere Dike of the Titans. Now, he must have edged out Marcus Jones. I'm not sure of the exact voting here, but Marcus Jones is the candidate we would have liked to see. And special teams player Devin Key, again, of the Denver Broncos. So you can see the Broncos are, very formidable offensive line, formidable defense, and good on special teams, all three phases of the game. Just real quick on the AFC team, we had QB Drake May for the Patriots. And we also had, there was a second guy here. Who was the second? Oh, all right. Wait, I thought there was a second Patriot on the All AFC team, but I am not seeing him on the list here. Yeah, that's it. All right. We do see Pat Surtain at quarterback, along with Derek Stingley Jr. on the defensive side. So again, you know, very formidable defense in Denver. They've got a cornerback on the All AFC team. They've got an outside linebacker on the All NFL team, and the special teamer Devin Key. Um, and then moving over to the All Rookie team, that was also announced, the Rookie of the Year, Tedoroa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. Now, if you listened to me at all last year, I was not a big fan of his in the pre-draft process, and mostly I was not a big fan of his for us. He's a talented player, obviously. Carson Schwessinger of the Browns, he's a linebacker picked early in the second round. He went and won 2025 Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Pro Football Writers Association. The all rookie team, we'll run down this real quick. Tyler Shuck of the Saints, Travion Henderson of the Pats, along with Ashton Genty of the Raiders. At wide receiver, you had Egbuka from the Bucks and Tedoroa McMillan from the Panthers. Tight ends, Tyler Warren. Center, Jonah Monheim. Guards, Tyler Booker and Gray Zabel. Kelvin Banks Jr. at tackle. Armand Membu at tackle as well. And give me 2 seconds. We'll flip over the defensive side of the. Okay, and I'm back. Sorry, having pets is a challenge sometimes. Um, on the defensive line, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, James Pierce Jr., Dion Walker of the Bills. That was my biggest miss in this last draft cycle. I really was not sold on him. Turns out a lot of his kind of questions about effort and consistency on the field were more related to a back injury that seems to be being managed a little bit better in the pros. Linebacker Teddy Buchanan and Jihad Campbell, as well as Carson Schwessinger. At cornerback, we had Will Johnson and Jacob Parrish. Jacob Parrish was I think, round 3 or round 4 pick for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Safety, Nick Aman Worry, the combine standout from last year, as well as Xavier Watts, third-round pick for the Falcons. And on special teams, here's a second guy I was thinking about, Andy Borregales, place kicker for the Patriots, punter Jeremy Crawshaw for the Broncos, and then kick returner and punt returner was Chimere Dike. Special teams Carson Bruner from the Steelers. So that's the PFWA Pro Football Writers Association teams. And all right, let's get back on schedule. Again, couple news notes. Brian Dable interviewing for the open Bills head coach position. Little Patriots adjacent news. He has some history with Josh Allen, and the team is rumored to be looking for an offensive-minded head coach. So we'll see how that goes. And then we had owner Robert Kraft, on 98.5 The Sports Hub yesterday. He was asked a few questions, including like why he doesn't want to build a dome, why he likes kind of the weather home field advantage sort of thing. And then he went ahead and talked about how the NFL is looking to move in the direction of an 18-game schedule. That would be 18 regular season games and just 2 preseason games. So that is a little bit of news that's hitting the NFL world. You'll hear people talking about. Let me know in the chat, what do you think? Would you want to move towards an 18 game schedule? Are you worried about player health? Where's your head at? Now we're going to move along. We're going to start talking about this draft, okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to use Draft Professor Fanatic mode. All right. This is a new mock draft mode that I have been introduced to this year. And I am a big fan of. I will what I'll do is I'll start this up and share the screen. All right. Now. All right. Now, so the mock draft fanatic mode here is my cat is being a whole problem today. All right. All right, there we go. Now you see the mock draft professor here, draftprofessor.com. This is the podcast that I'll be on tonight. Uh, See, I've selected over here on the sides just the round one draft card depth, draft randomness. That's how many teams in the first round do not pick the player on the top of their board. All right. Now you can adjust draft randomness, and then you could say, like, if you were doing a 7-round draft, which maybe we'll do at the end of this real quick, you could say first round they'll take BPA, but then after that it's more random. I like to have the full randomness on because nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen, exactly what people are looking for. I think that's really the best way to kind of simulate what might be there, especially when you're picking late in the round, like the Patriots are here at 30. So we're going to do the first round fanatic challenge, and we'll enter the draft here. As it loads, I'll explain this. Basically, we're going to take, we're going to do take 5 shots. All right. And we're going to take one player in the first try at this. And right now, it's, what we got to do is kind of figure out what are we doing with this team? Okay. What do we need? Um, One of the number one needs that I've talked about all season. We need a guy that's going to cover tight ends, that's going to cover big slot receivers, um, maybe a coverage linebacker, maybe a safety, um, maybe a cornerback, even a big slot corner. Um, Somebody in that role. Marcus Jones is great, but he is also 5'8". And I just keep thinking about the Atlanta Falcons game and Drake London just dunking all over him. Drake London looked like a first, Division One player playing in a middle school pickup game. There was just no competition to be had. He towers over Marcus Jones, like 8 inches taller than him. You add in the vertical differential, and he didn't have a chance. So that's a role that we need to fill. I know a lot of people feel like we need to fill an edge rusher role. I'm not 100% certain that's our biggest priority. I do think Caleb Von Chason, as I've talked about in a few videos, has been incredibly productive for us. I think Harold Landry is a guy that Mike Vrabel likes and is going to have starting as long as he can. And I think that the coaching staff is excited about the guys behind them. I know Elijah Ponder has picked up a lot of snaps this year, both on defense and on special teams. And I know that they liked Braden Swinson enough to sign him to the roster at the end of the year. Now, I saw him in one of those games, and to me, he I was paying attention specifically to him rewatching one of those games, and to me, he just didn't look like an impact pass rusher. So you may need some depth there. I think there's kind of an argument that you need either a star player, like a trade for a Max Crosby. We'll talk about that at some point in time, or just depth, like rotational options, developmental players, stuff like that. Guys, you grab with one of our 2 4th-round picks or one of our 4 6th-round picks, something like that. Um, so then, moving on to other positional needs. We need an X wide receiver, I still think. I think Kayshon Boutte's been good at times, but I think he would be more of like a Y type, kind of a secondary target, if you will. And we have some slot options with Steph Diggs, Demario Douglas, um, Matt Collins is kind of the closest that we have in terms of a like the body of an ex receiver, but his obviously we lost him for 4 games this year. You don't want to have your offense so contingent upon one player's health, right? You at least need another option in case he's unavailable. Um, and Matt Collins is not like the best receiver, right? Like he's a locker room guy, he's a good guy. Um, he's got skills. He's a great run blocker, but he's just not like the best receiver, right? So you could certainly upgrade that position. And then one of the glaring needs on this team, I think, is the left side of the offensive line, right? I think that we've seen why Will Campbell is not why we've seen oh sorry, my cat is being ridiculous today. We've seen why Will Campbell is not a left tackle over the past couple of games, and I think we're going to sadly see more of that this upcoming weekend. Um, we have seen Jared Wilson over and over and over again be a weak spot on this offensive line. Um, and, the center position, like Garrett Bradbury has played well. Jared Wilson is probably the center of the future. Um, but there are certainly some questions there. So the offensive line has improved from last year, without a doubt. Improved. We've, as I've said yesterday, we raised the floor of this offensive line with our picks and playing them how we have and so forth. Now it's time to raise the ceiling, right? We need to give Drake May legitimate time in the pocket, a legitimate pocket, a good offensive line in front of him. This guy's still getting sacked like the sixth highest rate in the league. Something like 8.9% of his dropbacks. It's a legitimate problem worth worrying about. So the left guard position or the left tackle position, if you are a subscriber to the theory like I am that Will Campbell is eventually going to need to move to left guard. The question is like kind of how do you handle that, right? From Mike Vrabel's perspective, do you say, hey, you've got to move like this offseason, and then what do you fill the left tackle position with? Or do you try and give him another year and let him kind of come to the conclusion himself that he's not a left tackle? So the reason that impacts what we're talking about here is, do you draft a left guard only to plan to move Campbell into left guard, right? Or do you draft left tackle like Isaiah World? Now, Isaiah World wasn't great at Oregon this year, but there are a number of options on the board here. Caleb Tiernan, similar issues to Will Campbell in terms of length. Max Ahiankor is a right tackle, probably. Drew Shelton, maybe a tackle. But there's certainly nobody worth grabbing here. Monroe Freeling, I believe, is going to be on the right side also. Jude Bowery, probably a later round pick, coming out of Boston College there under Bill O'Brien. That might be a name to keep an eye on. But I don't think there's any left tackle worth this spot right here in the draft. If you go up to who went off the board right before us, I mean, you see Caleb Lomu at 17. I've seen him projected anywhere from mid first to mid second. And you see a couple of these names, Vega Ioane out of Penn State. That's a high option on my board. He went 14 to the Ravens, and Emmanuel Pregnon here, you see, went 22 to the Chargers. Both those guys are the top guard options on my board. So right now, there is not really, maybe Jennings Dunker. I see him as a right side, right guard. Maybe, but probably not here in the first round. So you see our safety here, Dylan Thieneman, right there. So basically, the way that this board fell, I think our top options are probably going to be Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. He's an edge rusher. Now, he's going to come in short arms. He's a little light. He's like in the 240s. I think he's like 6'2". He's definitely got the short arm issue, but Mike Vrabel has shown that he doesn't really care about that sort of thing as much as he cares about quality tape, and Cassius Howell has a whole bunch of that. Now, the one concern about Cassius Howell is that he is going to be missing the Senior Bowl due to a health issue. Um, I'm guessing he'll show up at the combine. I'm guessing he'll show up at his pro day. A lot of people kind of feel like maybe he doesn't want to get out there and do these one-on-ones, like they're not set up for him to win, given kind of his length issues and build issues. And that's why he's skipping out on it. And then you've got Malachi Lawrence here, who's a very interesting option. This kid's 6'5", 250 out of Louisville. Sorry, not Louisville, UCF, thinking about Clev Lubin, who actually went back to school, but it was a very similar prospect in my minds to Lawrence in terms of quality. But anyway, 6'5", 250. This kid is built like a prototypical pass rusher. Okay, you've got 35 plus inch arms, incredibly quick, incredibly explosive, very strong, uh, almost useless in the run defense game, but a great pass rusher, a guy who can really get off the ball, get after the opposing team's quarterback. The question is, do you take him this high when you cannot use him even kind of in run defense, right? He's strictly on passing downs, almost to a DPR level. So there are, a number of options here. What we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and take Cassius Howell. Let's see how that works out. Now, what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to do a 2-round version of this Fanatic mock draft. It'll take a little bit longer, I think, but what it's going to do is it's going to show us how different scenarios play out right around. This actually, the simulator normally doesn't move this slowly either, by the way. So today, we're just kind of going through a few of these first round options. Now you'll see right here, this is a name I mentioned yesterday and earlier, a few minutes ago, Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon. He is my second rated interior offensive lineman in this draft. He's a top 5 on the Patriots individual draft board that I've built. He's an excellent guard prospect out of Oregon. He spent a year or two at USC. This is his first year at Oregon, or this was his only year at Oregon, I suppose. And he's a very good prospect. He's good in the pass game. He's good in the run game. He's strong, big. He's basically all the things you want in a guard prospect. He's also, good work ethic, no character issues, that sort of thing. So this is a pick that's high up on our draft board. And the other thing that I like about Emmanuel Pregnon is that I think that he's movable to the right side. Okay, and that's important here because, again, like I talked about, do you give Will Campbell another year at left tackle? Well, if you take Emmanuel Pregnon, you probably do, right? You put Pregnon at left guard, you put Will Campbell at left tackle, and then you've got Bradbury and Wilson battling it out for the center position. Onwenu still at right guard, and Moses at right tackle. Well, Onwenu is, I believe he's 30 years old and not getting any younger. And, he'll be coming up towards the end of that contract. I think 1-2 years left, maybe. So point being is that if you need to move Will Campbell in left and you have this young left guard in Emmanuel Pregnon, you can shift him right over to the right guard side. And I know that because there was a game this season where Oregon flipped their guards. I'm not sure why they flipped their guards, but they did. Pregnon played the entire game at right guard. The other guy played the entire game at left guard. And when asked about it later, Pregnon said actually he thinks he might be better at right guard. He's a dominant right hand guy, and he felt like he got a stronger push off the line. Now, did his numbers actually show that in the game? Showed about an even split, but he felt better. He felt comfortable. And that's really what's important. When you're talking about moving positions on the offensive line, it's not just an automatic thing, right? Especially when you're talking about flipping sides. It's a whole entire different feel, different look at the game. So that sort of flexibility is very important in this scenario. And I think we go ahead and grab up Pregnon. So now the first two picks we have taken, you can see here, Cash Howell and Emmanuel Pregnon. And this next iteration, they will be off the board by the time we pick. Again, this simulator norm a fly. We're doing a target for the Patriots this year. So as you look up here, Pregnon off the board to the 49ers, Howell off the board to the Bills. Make sure our first two picks are not available. So we are forced to pick somebody else. And that somebody else in this particular iteration is going to be Dylan Dienneman. Dylan Dienneman, he is a do-it-all type of safety. He's a junior. He started from day one at Purdue for his freshman and sophomore years, moved over to Oregon, started from day one there. He can kind of play all the roles as a safety. He played a little bit more in the box this year, but at Purdue, he was more of like a free safety type role. And I mean, he can really do it all. He's a leader of the defense. He's one of those guys that's, like first in, last out, gym, film, all this sort of stuff that he's just crazy about, right? And that I think he makes him an ideal player to line up opposite Drake May. You always hear those stories about Mike Vrabel and Tom Brady going back and forth and kind of having a in-team competition throughout practices, right? And I'm looking for that guy to put opposite Drake May in defense, who's going to be studying the film, who's going to be pushing not only the rest of the defense, but the quarterback as well. That's kind of the dynamic that Vrabel and Brady had themselves. And I think I'd like to see that be built up. And I'm not sure who that guy is currently on the defense right now. You got like Spillane at linebacker. He's one of the more outspoken players on the defense, one of the defensive leaders, but he's really more of a run stopping guy, not so much of a coverage guy. He's a tackling machine type of guy, right? You've got Christian Gonzalez at cornerback, but he's kind of, the one wide receiver type of shutdown corner role, right? And cornerbacks are typically not like the vocal leaders of the defense. For that, you typically want, safety, middle linebacker, that sort of thing. Guys who can communicate with the entire field, right? Cornerbacks on one sideline, he can't communicate with the guys on the other sideline. So it becomes a big game of telephone, essentially. Now, we're up in this fourth iteration of this draft. As you can see, we took Cassius Howell, Emmanuel Pregnon, and Dylan Dienneman in the first three iterations, and boom, 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 there they are, all off the board, 26, 27, 28, leaving us to choose from a number of other players. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to introduce a little theory that I've been talking about for the past couple weeks, in that I think that it could be that Christian Barmore is on his way out of town this offseason. We saw Vrabel come in and make a lot of immediate changes, try to remove himself from kind of the mistakes of the past administration. Kind of the decisions of the past administrations, not even mistakes, because you could argue some of those guys were solid players. They were just guys that Vrabel didn't feel like fit into his system and this team. And I'll tell you right now, Barmore is a guy who, personality-wise, I'm not 100% sure fits into this team. One of the first things that Vrabel talked about was treating, All right, and we are back. My apologies. I apparently had some technical issues here. The Some work going on outside my house, and the power just randomly went off. So, um, all right, let's get back into this. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to introduce, like I said, a theory that I've been talking about Christian Barmore being on his way out of town. Um, I was talking about the kind of overall philosophy from Mike Vrabel when he first got here, which was kind of essentially treat people around you well, treat people within the team building well, just kind of be a respectful, good human being. And Alonzo Highsmith and AJ Highsmith also gave kind of an extensive interview to Ari Merov, is his name, I believe that's how it's said, where they talked about, their scouting process being essentially about, find good human beings. And as I worked at an establishment where a lot of the Patriots frequented, and I can tell you right now firsthand that Christian Barmore is not the type of guy that fits into the same mold as the rest of the players. Let's say the rest of the players very you know chatty and talkative and friendly, and treat other people kind of around them generally well, and the type of person that treats the waiter well, right? And Christian Barmore he's just not that type of guy. Um, and so anyway, if he is on his way out of here, I think we probably get a day two pick of some kind. It doesn't really impact this particular process here, but we're going to need a replacement. And I think Caleb Banks would make an excellent replacement. Caleb Banks is a guy who has amazing physical tools. Okay, 6'6", 330, uh, uh, great burst off the line, strong. He just needs to learn how to play football a little better. Um, he's just a little lost out that he blows right past the guy that he should be tackling. So somebody's got to kind of sit down and explain to him how to play football a little better, coach him up a little bit better. Um, And I think that this is the team to do it. I mean, you sit there with a guy like Milton Williams, for instance, right? And kind of study under him. So anyway, we're getting into the fifth iteration of this draft. As you can see, the first four guys we took, Cassius Howell, Emmanuel Pregnon, Dylan Thieneman, and Caleb Banks, are all off the board. Um, and that leaves us in a bit of a predicament. You heard me talk earlier about how Denzel Boston is my top target for the Patriots, and he has not been available for us one single time. So we can take a little bit out of that in saying, if that's a guy that we want to target, maybe we need to move up to this type of range to do so. Now, I know I heard somebody the other day, a Chargers podcaster, talk about how they need to trade back because they need picks. Guess what? We've got an extra fourth rounder and 3 extra sixth rounders. So we are well positioned to move up into this type of range, I think. I think it would take a fourth. I think it would take a sixth. And we could easily jump up with the Browns, the Eagles, the Chargers, potentially this sort of range where we could target either, an Emmanuel Pregnon, who we saw off the board early in our first attempt at this. He went to the Chargers at that point in time. Vega Ioane, who right here in this is going at 23. We've seen him go as early as, 14 earlier, I think, right? So there's a number of players that we could shift up maybe 7-8 spots and potentially target. In this particular exercise, trading is not an option. And actually, this mock draft simulator, it's not the best for trades, in my opinion. There are a number of mock draft simulators out there, right? The popular one being PFF. Everybody kind of knows that. And I'm not a particular fan of the PFF mock draft simulator. Number one, because they want to charge you $25 a month or $20 a month or something like that whatever it is, it's not worth it when there are free options that are good. And number two, because I don't like their when you do it for one team, it seems wildly unrealistic to me. I was doing it earlier in the season, and Dante Moore and Kenyon Sadiq were available in round 3 and round 4, which is just ridiculous. So. Anyway, let's look back at the board here for our 5th iteration of this mock draft. Again, our previous 4 choices are off the board. We went with an edge, and interior offensive lineman, a safety, and a defensive lineman. And just for the sake of kind of talking about another player, and this is somebody that we saw targeted earlier. Oh man, Caden Proctor's really tempting. That guy is a behemoth. I mean, 6'8", 350, 360, just a monster athletic. We could use him in a 6th offensive lineman sort of way. We could use him to back up the entire right side of the line. Heck, perhaps he even makes, man, maybe he gives us that tackle option that Will Campbell isn't quite yet, right? Oh, see, so even with our first 4 picks off the board, even with Denzel Boston, my number 1 target for this Patriots team, off the board on all 5 iterations of this draft, we still got a number of interesting options here at 30. We've got Isaiah World. He's listed at 6'8", 320, 330, something like that. Here he's actually going to be measured and come in at closer to like 6'4" and a half, 6'5". Got Chris Brazel, 6'5", 200 pounds. He's tall, he's thin. He comps to very well to the guy in Christian Watson in Green Bay. He's an option there. Tall, fast, good receiver. Not a great run blocker, and there are some questions about his effort when he is not the main target of the play. Kevin Concepcion, a lot of people like. I'm not a fan of him for our team. I just think we have too many of that body type already. What we need in the wide receiver room is additional height and maybe the speed, sure, but really the big body type of guys is what I'm aiming for. Malachi Lawrence, I talked about him earlier. Ideal pass rush, great for this system too. The thing about this system is we don't ask a lot in terms of run defense. Malachi Lawrence would be a great fit here. I just think maybe round 1 is a little early to take him. I would really like to see him taken in round 2. Earlier in the process, we were talking about him late day 2, early day 3. He's really moved up on draft boards. Jennings Dunker, another guy I could see taking. But in this scenario, let's go ahead and take the big tackle out of Alabama, Caden Proctor. In this scenario, you would probably bring Caden Proctor in, try and get him into NFL shape with your trainers, try and coach him up as much as you need to, as much as you can, and then bring him in either when you have injury issues or when you're trying to bring a 6th offensive lineman in those sorts of scenarios. So, all right, that is the end of the draft professor's mock draft portion of this show. We've talked about a lot of different options in terms of what we might be looking for, holes we might be filling, and kind of overall team building strategy, right? Like long-term strategies. One other thing on that draft professor's mock draft simulator that I like about it is the team boards are individualized for each team, but additionally they're user built. Okay, so the more people that go in there and do mock drafts, the board changes. Okay, so like the more people that take Caden Proctor, for instance, we just took Caden Proctor. He was a little bit lower on the board, you saw. The next time that we're in there for the Patriots and we're at pick 30, instead of being ranked 38th, he might be ranked 32nd, so it's a user built interface in terms of the draft board that interacts based upon where you select them, and it just kind of brings a really interesting spin to the mock draft process and to the mock draft simulator itself. So, um, tomorrow I'm thinking about doing a 2-round Fanatic mode. Now that's going to be 10 iterations where we're swapping out the second round pick. And what that lets us do is kind of set up multiple scenarios of like, well, if we take a wide receiver in the first, then what's going to be available to us in the second? If we take a safety in the first, what's available in the second? That sort of thing, right? And it really kind of helps you set up the board in your head where you can say, like, okay, between 50 and 70, there's a glut of safeties, for instance. I know there is. So in this particular draft class, for the safety position is kind of the strongest between, say, picks 40 and 60, 50 and 70, somewhere in that range. Late round 2, early round 3, right? Midday 2 is, I guess, what you would call it. Midday 2 pack has a lot of safety depth. So do you want to take a safety in the first when you can potentially take one in the second that's just as good? It's a lot of replacement value talk, that sort of thing. So leave a comment in the chat. Let me know if that's something that you would be interested in seeing tomorrow. We're going to be coming to you again at the same time. You know, I had originally set this for 8 a.m. and for some reason in my head, I set it at 9 a.m. And I think 9 a.m. is actually might end up being a time that works a little bit better. So yeah, leave a comment in the chat if you have a preference there. Are you available at 8 or are you available at 9? Are you trying to, you know, if you had a vote in this, when would you want this conversation to be happening daily? I'd like to set up that sort of consistency, and I'd like to, you know, set a firm time on what works for us all. So, anyway, yeah, subscribe, come on back, more snap judgments, more draft talk, team building talk. We'll talk about, you know, little bit of hit on kind of like day-to-day current event news. And, you know, of course, we'll talk about coffee too. Coffee and football, snap judgments. Subscribe for more. Thanks for coming to the stream. And I'm sorry about those technical issues in the middle there. That was I don't know if the whole neighborhood went out or what, but the power just flashed out entirely for a minute. It took a minute or two for the modem to come back up. So thanks for bearing with us as we try and work things out in the first couple episodes here. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.